All right, this session, Getting to Know the Suburban Realtors Alliance, is being recorded and will be shared to the Tri-County Suburban Realtors webinar archive on our website shortly after the conclusion of the event. We ask you to please respect the time and effort of our presenters by keeping your camera on and your microphone off. There will be time for Q&A, at which time you can unmute and ask your questions. So please welcome today's speakers, Jamie Ridge, the CEO of the Suburban Realtors Alliance, and Erin Smist, the Suburban Realtors Alliance Government Affairs Manager. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Paula. Good morning, everybody, and thanks for being with us. I am going to share a presentation, and we're going to be floating back and forth between this and also our website to demonstrate some things there. So we'll start here and from the beginning. So getting to know the SRA. And first of all, to get to know the SRA, you have to know that this is one of the services that are yours because you're a member of Tri-County Suburban Realtors. We have about 13,000 members altogether, and we cover the 4 counties around Philadelphia. So that includes all 238 municipalities, which we'll be talking a lot about today, because that's one of the reasons we're around, is we have so many municipalities and they require so many different things. We try to help you with that. So as a member of Tri-County, this is part of your local dues, and we hope it brings, a lot of value for that. So let's get rolling here. Talk to you a little bit about the services that we do provide. Probably number one, and something that I hope that you're familiar with, is our municipal database. And again, if you work in southeastern Pennsylvania, you are in a unique area because there are so many municipalities and they all require something different for resales. And it can be a use and occupancy permit. It can, there's sign ordinances that they have, and you need to know all of that. So our focus, really, number one focus is at the municipal level. And that's where we work every day. Also news briefs, every Friday. Hopefully you're signed up for these, you get them in your email. But we look at every newspaper in the 5-county area, including Philadelphia, and we summarize those stories that really are important for realtors, we believe. School taxes, ordinance that are being passed in different municipalities, new developments. All of that is included in the news, and you also get state and federal news. We look at state legislation that could impact your business. We look at legislation that's being advocated by PAR, tell you about that, and also at the federal level we do that. So every level you're getting with those news briefs. We also do advocacy at every level. So at the municipal level, this means that we are looking at the tiny little legal ads in the newspapers every day, announcing proposed laws that we think will affect you. And so we look at those, and then if we need to, we reach out to the townships and boroughs and let them know what we think about the draft of legislation. We provide input to them based on our experience and the way these things impact real estate. As you can imagine, because this is your profession, real estate is one of the most important industries, if not the most important industry for municipalities. If you think of the way that real estate drives the local economy, somebody buys a house and all of a sudden they're at Lowe's or Home Depot or some other store buying things in the community. That all drives that local economy. Taxes are provided through school taxes and municipal taxes and county taxes. And so it's really, really important. And we remind the government of that all the time. But we do look at this at the state, local, state, and federal level. So at the local level, we are really looking at point of sale issues and mostly use and occupancy ordinances. So in our territory, in Tri-County territory, Delaware County, probably 90% of municipalities have some kind of use and occupancy ordinance. And they range from very simple to very comprehensive. They're going in, they're doing a full-blown inspection of that property, which can get, very expensive. And so we're looking at those. Also, rental registration and inspections. If you're working with an investor in the Southeast, they're going to want to know if they have an annual inspection requirement, what that's going to include, what are the fees that are related to rental registration and inspection. And so you can find all of that in our database as well. And Erin is going to be showing us that on the website in just a few minutes here. Sign ordinances. You may not know, but again, every municipality has a different sign ordinance, and some of them can be as strict as saying you can't put out directional signs. And if you put those directional signs out, you might get fined, and your signs may be taken. And so again, the database, you can find out all of that right there. Other ordinances and taxes that impact your business and consumers, business privilege taxes. They're rare, but we do have them in our area. And so all of that is listed again in the database that Erin is going to show you. State and federal advocacy. We don't just stop at the municipal borders. We work with our Pennsylvania Association, the Pennsylvania Association of Realtors, to advocate for state legislation that affects our industry and our consumers. Right now, we're looking at legislation that has already moved through the Senate and it's going over to the House. It has to do with wholesaling and that practice of wholesaling real estate. We'll buy your house for cash signs that you see. And you may not know that a lot of folks that are conducting that business, they don't have a real estate license. And so this legislation would require them to have that license, and it would also require more transparency for the sellers involved in these transactions, because there is some predatory behavior, I would say, in this practice. And so the state association and we want to make sure that sellers aren't being taken advantage of, that they're dealing with licensed real estate practitioners, and that's going to provide some safety for those. Changes to the Municipal Code and Ordinance Compliance Act, which I'm going to be kind of taking a little bit of a deep dive on a little bit later in this presentation. Right now, we have an amendment moving through the state that would be a good thing for us. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that. Any other priority issues for realtors that our state association looks at? There are thousands of pieces of legislation introduced each year in the state, hundreds of pieces that can affect what you do. And for you, they may fly under the radar, but they are on the radar of our state association. And we help them with that, reaching out to our members, letting you all know what's happening and keeping you informed. And so you won't find a piece of real estate legislation moving through the State House in Harrisburg that PAR is not aware of, which is a really good insurance for all of you and for us. Federal issues, we team up with our national association. Again, they've got a top-notch lobbying team there, and they're doing the same thing. They're looking at federal legislation that can affect what you do and can affect the whole home buying process. 1031 exchanges, they're going to be kind of on the table this year because there's going to be some tax reform happening. 1031 exchanges are very important for our members and for consumers, and so we want to protect the ability to do that. Also, federal tax issues, state and local taxes, the way that they're deducted on your annual taxes. Federal tax issues like state and local, and also the mortgage deduction itself, and the ability to deduct your mortgage taxes. So those are things that are going to be kind of heating up over this past year. A lot of the federal tax law that was reformed in 2017 is actually going to be going, a lot of that for us, for regular consumers is going to be going away in 2025. And so there's a lot of debate now in Congress about making changes to those that could be good, they could not be so good for homeowners. So again, we're looking at all of that. The next thing I'm going to turn the presentation over to Erin. Our website, I think, is a hidden gem for many of our members. They're not even aware of all that is available through the website. And so Erin is going to walk you through and show you the database, which I've been talking about, and some of the other new things that we have, like the tax calculator. So Erin, I will quit out of this and let you share the website.
Great. Thank you so much, Jamie. So as Jamie mentioned, the website is really one of the ways that you as a member can utilize the resources that the Suburban Realtors Alliance provides. We are a member benefit. This is absolutely driven by realtors in many cases. This was a need that was identified a number of decades ago because it is so complicated in southeastern Pennsylvania when it comes to point of sale issues. So I'm going to share my screen because I'm going to go into our website. I think that's really the best way to show all of you what it is that you need to know. The big thing to note, up in the upper right-hand side of the website, that's really where you're going to find most of the resources that are most helpful to you on a daily basis, or even weekly basis, however often you need to use this. I will note there is a contact us section right up here. So if you do have an issue, I just want to quickly flip to this. You can let us know through the website. You're always welcome to call us as well, but anytime there is something that you feel you need help with when it comes to a municipal issue, you can contact us through the website. We get a lot of calls from members who are dealing with an inspection issue that has to do with point of sale, or they have a question about a sign ordinance or something on the website too. So the information that we put out here is meant to guide you. However, we know that you may have additional questions. So know that that's right at the top of this. There's also a member login. There are a couple of features on our website which are actually password protected. One of those is the municipal database. The other is the calculator. This is because this is something that your dues dollars go to pay for. So therefore, we feel that it's something that should be accessible to all of you. So the municipal database, you're going to use your NRDS number or your NAR membership number to log in. It's that 9-digit number that you get when you become a realtor. If you don't remember what it is, you can click on this "I forgot my username" button here, and you can look that up. Everyone has the same password, and it's pretty easy to remember. It's just SRA, lowercase. If you don't remember what it is, you're always welcome to get in, through the database, looking up your username, and then there's actually something on that front page that will show you that what it is that you're having to put in there. I'm going to bring up a couple of profiles now because I think that this is kind of the best way to show how this information works and what it is that we're pulling out from these municipalities. So I'm bringing up a fairly complicated one to start. This is Norristown. It's a municipality in Montgomery County. If you do business there, know that there's a lot of steps that you need to go through when you're dealing with the sale of a home there. Not only is there a deed registry fee, there's also a requirement in Norristown that there is a zoning certification that needs to be obtained before the use of occupancy process can even begin. So all of this information is actually on here. Sometimes if there's something particularly of interest, we'll put it in red and bold and try and draw your attention to it. And really there's a lot of steps that need to be noted here within this particular profile. So we try and make this information as kind of accessible as possible. All of the things that are on the use and occupancy inspection are going to be in this residential resale inspection information section. We have the fees on here. We have what types of things that they're looking for during the inspection. Some municipalities do exterior inspections, some do interior and exterior inspections. Others have certification requirements. So some municipalities require that the chimney basically have a specialist come out and certify that that item within the home is in good working order. Some municipalities, and I feel like I'm going through you know, a lot of kind of the worst case scenarios here, but some municipalities also require a sewer lateral inspection. We've seen this kind of become a trend in some areas where there's older infrastructure. So in that case, the municipality may require that the pipe that goes from the house to the sewer main be inspected with a camera, or sometimes there's a smoke test or a dye test that's required. It depends on the municipality. And that is part of the use and occupancy process. And that is something that can certainly create headaches for both buyers and sellers when they're going through these things. I will note Norristown in particular has a lead paint requirement. So that's something that may, if it impacts that property, it may be something that needs to be dealt with. So that's just something to mention because not every municipality has that. We only have a very small percentage of municipalities that actually have something like that. Norristown was the very first in this region. Then we have information about rental property inspections. So some municipalities, in addition to having that point of sale inspection, also have rental property regulations. And so there is a completely different set of rules for rental properties. So if you are an investor, if you're working with an investor, or maybe you're a property manager, or someday think that maybe a property will become a rental property, this may apply. So we have this information right below that resale information. Again, sometimes the requirements are you know, more stringent for these rental properties, and they can also sometimes have an annual inspection or license requirement for those properties. So it might just be something to note. And I will say each of these profiles are actually printable. You can share these along to your client if you feel like this is something that they might need to know about. Sometimes showing them several different municipalities and the different requirements can help them understand, you know, the differences between communities. And certainly something that I always like to say is the earlier you can take care of issues, the better within the process. So we have all of that information on here. We also have information about sign ordinances and solicitation rules. So sign ordinances and solicitation rules are something that impact you as the realtor directly. Those are you know, very, very much from municipality to municipality. So some municipalities do not allow directional signs. We have quite a few of these, actually. We actually have a couple of municipalities that also regulate for sale signs. So it's a really good idea for you as a realtor to follow the rules in the community where you're doing business, because sometimes code officials get pretty upset when they see that something is not, a rule is not being followed. And anytime that there's been a sign ordinance that's come up for discussion, and we've been a part of that discussion ahead of those changes, the reason that's often given to us as to why they're making a stricter sign ordinance, it's because realtors or some business group in the community was not following the rules that they had in play. So it's really important that that you're aware of those rules. So that's one thing. And then solicitation ordinances. Quite a few municipalities have solicitation ordinances these days. And so if you are knocking on neighbors' doors, it's really important that you are aware if there is a rule for you to register with the township. My township, for instance, has a requirement for you to get a permit in order to knock on people's doors, and they've never issued a permit in the township. So anybody that's knocking on doors actually, frankly, is in violation of the ordinance. We have information about school districts and tax information, and we're going to dive a little bit more into the tax information. We have been collecting this information for years as part of the municipal database, but now now with the tax calculator, there's actually now been some some ability for you to give a real snapshot of what the tax profile will look like at point of sale and then for the year as well. And then we have information about building codes and zoning, property maintenance requirements. Again, those property maintenance requirements sometimes come into play at point of sale, because particularly if you're dealing with a vacant property, and maybe somebody, isn't mowing the lawn, that could sometimes be an issue for realtors. The other place that can come into play is with a rental property. So quite a few municipalities do have a specific set of rules when it comes to property maintenance. And then we also have vacant or blighted property ordinances, which flows nicely into that. We do have a few municipalities that have student housing ordinances, and that's separate from the rental ordinance and a completely different set of rules. So that's something to be aware of as well. We have zoning information on here where we can. We do provide the zoning maps. Not every municipality has them accessible online. So that is sometimes challenging to get for every municipality, but we put out whatever information we can on this database: municipal staff, public meeting schedules. And then down here at the bottom, I know that I talked about the contact us section already, but this is just another place for you. If you're in a profile and you have a question, feel free to reach out to us. If you see that there's a change that needs to be made, one of the things about this municipal database is that it is very much a living document. So this is something that we've created that we know is going to be changing on a pretty regular basis. Unfortunately, fees are one of the areas in Pennsylvania where there's no need for a public notice to change a fee. That can be done through a resolution. So sometimes those are updated, and we get realtors who are superstars in our minds who reach out to us and let us know if there's been a change to the fees. And that's really helpful. So if you see something on here that needs to be updated, we are very responsive in terms of making those updates. We actually have a person who's dedicated on staff, Bobby Wank, who makes those changes pretty much immediately when she gets them. So that's something to be aware of. And then we have information here about how this municipality was most recently in the news. As Jamie mentioned before, we have a news brief service, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. But one of the newest things that we have on our website, this website was actually just updated last year, and one of the big, I think, major changes to it that is really positive for all of you as members is we are focusing on what is happening in these communities every day of the year. But here now you can see what big things are happening in this municipality that we've pointed out and we've noted. So that's something to be aware of. I'm going to pull up another municipality so you can see one that also has a lot of information, but is going to look completely different than Norristown. So I'm pulling up Media next. So Media here also has an inspection at point of sale, but as you can see, their information is much more, there's not as many caveats to it. They're looking at driveways, exterior handrails, heating systems, the basics. And they do also have a property maintenance code, but there's this information is very certainly detailed, but there's not as much for you to know about as a realtor in this particular instance. Whenever we can, we do link to the forms. Now, because there have been so many changes over the years, we've noticed sometimes municipalities will change a specific form, and so maybe things will change quickly on a municipal website. So we'll oftentimes link you to the form page so you can find that information. Again, if there's a rental inspection requirement, we'll have that on here. Open house solicitation rules, will have that on here as well. So as you can see, the data changes very much from municipality to municipality. As Jamie mentioned, there's 238 municipalities within the 4 counties that we cover, Chester, Delaware, Montgomery, and Bucks County. And that means that there's 238 different sets of rules. I will also mention we do actually also have a profile for Philadelphia here as a courtesy. Philadelphia, because it is one county, one city, it is very easy for us to just include that information as a courtesy to our members. To add other counties would mean many municipalities and a lot of work, but Philadelphia is fairly easy for us to provide to all of you. So that information is on here. And I will note one of the major differences between the suburbs and Philadelphia is there are a lot of rules when it comes to taxes and making sure that you have a commercial activity license. So you as a realtor, if you are doing business in Philadelphia, it's a really good idea for you to go onto that profile and just check out what they have on there. All right, so I'm going to now jump back to our main page, and I'm going to go into the tax calculator. So the municipal database is probably the number one resource for you as a realtor, where you can get a lot of great information when it comes to local government and doing business in this area. Another tool in that toolbox is our tax calculator. And this is, again, one of those password protected services. So I'm going to bring up, again, just two municipalities to show you kind of the difference between them. So I'm going to pick on media again, because it's the county seat. So that's basically how I came up with this idea. So we're gonna put in a property assessment of, we're gonna say $365,000, and then a sale price of, we'll say, these are not, you know, real numbers, but you can plug in the real numbers for your clients. And we're gonna say 2 adults in the house, and it will be owner occupied. And then once you put in the numbers of the property assessment, the sale price, annual income, the number of adults, is it owner occupied? We tried to make this as simple as possible. Pete Kennedy on our staff really worked to make this something that is very user friendly for all of you. You can get a snapshot of what the taxes will look like in that community. So you can see what the annual taxes are, and you can see where those taxes are going, as well as the total transfer taxes. So a lot of municipalities have a transfer tax of 1% that's split between the school district and the municipality. And then the state has another 1% transfer tax, but we do have some communities that are home rule municipalities, and so those taxes look a bit different in those communities. So don't always assume that it's just going to be 2%. And then this breaks down some additional information for all of you if there's an earned income tax, or if there's something that you need to be aware of in terms of homestead exclusions, that sort of thing. And again, we do not recommend that you become a tax expert. You're realtors, you're not tax experts, as we work for realtors. But this is something that is just meant to give like a very brief snapshot. All right, I'm going to pick on another community. I'm going to go to Chester County this time, and I'm going to go to Westchester Borough. Oops, there we go. And because Chester County is so different in terms of its taxes, I'm just going to put in a different assessment. This probably will give you a bit of a better reflection of what a $500,000 home would be. So you can see that the taxes do change a bit. Even within a school district, you can see major differences in taxes from municipality to municipality. So sometimes this is a good tool for somebody to be able to kind of predict what they're gonna see. So this is again a great resource for all of you. If you have any questions, you are welcome to reach out to us about a specific tax profile or something like that. Or if you have a question about this data, certainly reach out to us. So that's the second thing that I wanted to mention. On our homepage, the other thing that we have on here is this For Realtors tab. Again, this is right up in that upper right-hand corner. So this is really where all of the information that we think is important for you to know about is. This tab really provides you with some great information. Again, the municipal database tax calculator is put on there, as well as we have tips for realtors. So one of the things that we always tell people is understanding local rules is so important to what you do. If you go into transactions not knowing what to expect, it can be really stressful for everyone. So knowing what requirements are there for you is a really good idea. One of the things that, you know, we say to people that are from out of state sometimes that call us and they're not familiar with the area, you know, this is kind of the advantage that you have as a realtor within within this area is you can know the rules. And one of the things that we also note is give time for this process to go through. So as far out as you can, schedule inspections with municipalities. Do that because it really does take the pressure off at the last minute. Sometimes we get calls from realtors, as I noted before, that contact button up there. People call us all the time with issues that happen at point of sale. You know, because the municipality is kind of putting some pressure on a situation to get repairs done. And sometimes Jamie's going to go through Act 133, the Municipal Code and Ordinance Compliance Act. Sometimes there's protections in place there, but the closer something happens to settlement, the more stressful it is for everyone. So making sure that you get those inspections done in advance is really important. Municipal authorities, knowing that you know, there's many different layers to things. The municipal database tries to demystify that as much as possible. So if we think that there's something that you need to be aware of, we're going to really put it into the database. There are some municipalities that actually also have authorities for their sewer services, and those authorities also have requirements. So wherever possible, we put information that is pertinent to all of you within that. And then
Hey, Erin, let me just add something there because this is a topic that we've been talking a lot about as staff just recently. One of the big problems with municipal authorities is that the townships do not communicate with the authorities in terms of letting you know what they're requiring. And so you may go to a township and say, hey, do you have a use and occupancy process? And they may say no. However, their municipal authority may have a sewer lateral inspection that's required, and the township won't tell you that. So if you look at our database, it does share that information. It's really important because we've had some horror stories about missing that municipal authority process, and then the buyer having to take care of that after settlement. And it can be, as you can imagine, a sewer lateral, if it needs to be replaced, you know, you might be talking $15,000, $20,000. So look at the database and just make sure and just know that, you know, the townships don't always share that kind of information. That's one of our frustrations, but you get the remedy through the database.
Absolutely. Thank you for mentioning that, Jamie. And you know, the last point that I wanted to make in terms of this particular tips for realtors page, which is brilliant, and certainly anybody who's new to the industry, it's a good idea for you to take a look at this, is if there's a problem that you find, we're here to help you. So I keep referencing that contact us section up at the upper right of our page, but it really be professional when you're dealing with municipal employees. A lot of times their perspective is that they're trying to get an inspection done and make sure that they are every box that they believe is a safety item is checked and in good order. But sometimes, you know, your perspective as a realtor is very different than their perspective as a municipal employee. So be professional when you're dealing with them, because odds are you're going to be dealing with them multiple times throughout your career, and they have very long memories if there's something that goes south on a transaction. So we're here to help you. We have probably gotten a call about something. There are every once in a while calls where I say, I've never heard this problem before. But a lot of times we know the patterns. We know where there's sort of actors that are more difficult to deal with, I'll put it that way, within municipalities, but we're here to help you. So the database is a great information section for you, but we're also a help. So then I just want to jump into other ways that you can learn about local issues. We put out a weekly news brief service to all of you as members. So basically we're following what's happening in the newspapers. We're following what's happening in the in the public notices and also information directly from the municipalities in this region. So one of the things that we've come to really realize is that what we're doing shouldn't just be held as staff. So we're putting that out to realtors for you, because this is all really good information. Anything that is really big that we think that you need to know about, we put in here. And I will highlight one of the items that is in our news briefs from last week and also in the news briefs from this week. There's going to be a major change to the inspection process in Upper Darby Township. And Upper Darby is one of the bigger municipalities within our footprint. And this is going to be a really big change. For years, Upper Darby has been doing inspections to the exterior of the home. But as of July 1st, they are going to start doing inspections to the interior. It is our understanding that this will start on July 1st, which is next week. We have been in contact with the township to get some more information about what exactly they're going to be doing, as well as a list of questions that we worked to kind of hone with a group of realtors that are very active in the township. So we're hoping that we're going to have more information for realtors, but whatever information we do have, we are putting out to you. It is my understanding, the website that Upper Darby has currently doesn't really give you much on the way of in the way of information, but is my understanding that this inspection will follow the 2015 International Property Maintenance Code. So the items that are within that code will likely be part of these inspections, but really, we are going to be putting the information out as we get it to members, and this is something that is a bigger story, but it's one that I just want to highlight today. And then if there's something that we think is important to all of you, we'll put that in the news as well. So this is broken out by county. So the counties within Tri-County are all featured here: Chester, Delaware, and Montgomery. And then we also have Philadelphia and Bucks as well. And at the very top of the news briefs, we also have a general section. So anything that is kind of, this is the category of anything that's federal, state, or really a big deal for the industry, we'll put that in here too. And we have an archive of the news that we put out. This was actually something that one of our members pointed out to us a number of years ago. They were following stories relating to taxes in Coatesville. That year there had been a lot of changes to the school district taxes, and they wanted to get a handle of what was happening. And so having this archive of stories is really helpful. So if there's something that you remember, you can go back and look at the headlines and see what it is that you're kind of half remembering. We know that there's a lot of information that comes out at you as realtors. And so we try and make this as easy as possible for you. If you do not currently receive the weekly news briefs, you can do that. You can sign up for that. There's actually a spot at the bottom of our email, as well as on the page there as well. And then we have a blog that comes out that kind of talks more about in-depth things that we're trying to cover as well. Pete Kennedy, our communications manager, covers that, and he does a fantastic job putting together just some information that's a little bit more in depth than what we would cover in the news briefs. We really try to make those news briefs something that's easy for all of you to digest on a Friday morning in a few minutes, and you can kind of get to that information that you need. But we're constantly working with this information. And then another thing that we have on here that I'll note is we do have information about our the issues that we're working on. So each of these things that I've talked about, use and occupancy, inspections, realty transfer tax, the things that actually flow into our municipal database, there's a policy position that goes into that. So if you want to learn more about any of these issues that I've talked about, there's probably a policy position on it. And if you really feel like you want to learn a lot about the Suburban Realtors Alliance and spend an hour learning about our issues, you're welcome to do that. We put information about these things, in other ways out to you, but it's all on our website as well, because we like to be transparent about what it is we are focused on as an organization. And last but not least, I will, before I turn this back to Jamie, who's going to talk about Act 133, the Municipal Code and Ordinance Compliance Act, I will note on our website here, again, it come into that For Realtors tab in the upper right is really kind of the holy grail of things that will be of interest to you as a member. We have a whole page dedicated to the Municipal Code and Ordinance Compliance Act, because it is something that is so important to things that the point of sale inspections that you're all dealing with in these municipalities. So that really demystifies it as much as possible for you as members. So that is our website in a nutshell. Does anybody have any questions before I hand it over to Jamie? I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Okay, do I see anything in the chat? Okay, Jamie actually took care of it.
All right.
Great. Back to you, Jamie.
Here we go. Okay, so for this hour and a half or so, we wanted to do a little deeper dive into this state law, Act 133, as Erin mentioned. This is really near and dear to our hearts, because we've been directly involved in this legislation, amending it, passing it in the very beginning. And so I think it's good for you to have a really deep understanding of this law, because you probably are going to be dealing with it every day. And this is how municipalities are regulated in terms of them issuing these certificates. So a little bit of history to begin. So the law was first passed in 2000. It was written in 1999. It actually went into effect on January 1st, 2000. And it meant that it was really aimed at blight control. Primarily purchasers of property with a substantial violation would have 18 months after the purchase to fix or demolish their property. And again, so this was really looking at blighted properties that were sitting there, maybe abandoned even. And this was a tool for the townships to clean that up through the sale. The one big restriction was that municipalities could not refuse to issue a use and occupancy certificate on the basis of a substantial violation, unless the violation renders the property unfit for habitation. Now, that became very key for us because it created a loophole for townships and boroughs, which I'll talk a little bit more about. So again, law was meant to really promote blight control. It gave municipalities a timeline for forcing property repairs. In the beginning, it was 18 months, which is quite a long time to bring a property up to code. And it also, this is one of the most important things about this law. It protects the ability of buyers and sellers to negotiate who will pay for those corrections. Prior to this law, townships frequently said, hey, seller, you have to do all those repairs prior to settlement, which created a real issue for sellers. The major definitions of that original law were substantial violation, which meant that some violation of the code or ordinance that posed a threat to health, safety, or property. Also importantly, unfit for habitation was undefined, not defined at all in the original law. So what were the shortcomings of that law? Number one, it was pretty much ignored or reinterpreted, by the municipalities to fit their needs. So municipalities interpreted ordinances to make nearly everything a substantial violation that would make the property unfit for habitation, meaning that the seller would be forced to make those repairs prior to settlement. Or they just simply ignored the law and required the repairs prior to settlement, or they made up creative middle steps like escrow requirements. If you have a sidewalk repair and you want to buy this house, you're going to give us $1,000 in escrow until the sidewalk is repaired. So again, one more thing is they would only allow 2 to 4 weeks for repairs instead of the 18 months in the state law. Some municipalities, I'll give you a great example, Bristol Township in Bucks County would ask for you to give escrow for sidewalk repair. That escrow was $1,000. And what buyers figured out pretty quickly was that the township was never going to come back and recheck that sidewalk repair. And so for $1,000, you could just keep that sidewalk that was crumbling, and the township would never check back. So what happened with Bristol Township was they kept on doing this, and they collected, I think, almost $300,000 worth of escrow that was never returned to the buyers because they never repaired the sidewalk. So this was a huge issue prior to the new law being amended. So the catalyst for the change for this law was really after 2008. A lot of mortgages were underwater after the recession. And in southeastern Pennsylvania, we had a couple of instances where families went into foreclosure because municipalities would not allow them to sell their property because they said there was a substantial violation. Now, if you're in foreclosure, you're probably not going to be able to pay for those repairs. And so that was the case in several instances. And when we shared this with state legislators, they couldn't believe it, and they wanted to put a stop to that happening. Another one, just actually locally, we had an Army vet who wanted to buy a Fannie Mae REO, a foreclosed home. And instead of allowing him to buy the home and then make the repairs prior to settlement, this township required the buyer, a veteran, to make the repairs prior to owning the home. Now, it sounds crazy, but under the old law, that was actually allowed. And can you imagine if this guy put in all of the money for those repairs, and then somehow the transaction fell through at the last minute? He would have just repaired a home for Fannie Mae, a multi-billion-dollar corporation that didn't need the help, making those repairs. But this guy would have been out of thousands of dollars. And so fortunately, the sale did go through, but we were able to use that as another example of what was wrong with this law. So with that, we were able to talk to our local legislators and really convince them that we needed to make some very simple amendments to the law. We had a legislator from the middle of the state who introduced legislation to shorten the requirement of 18 months to 12 months, meaning that new buyers would have 12 months instead of 18 months to make the repairs after settlement. And then using the framework of that, we had a local realtor who actually ran for the state house, was a good friend of ours. He was a realtor. And he understood this issue. He actually lived in Upper Darby, and so he was very familiar with their code practices and how it really created issues for sellers and buyers. And so he offered an amendment that added a new structure for the issuance of the permits. So we had many meetings. We met with stakeholders. We met with municipalities, the Bar Association, everybody else that was interested in this law, and we worked out legislation that was actually passed unanimously through the House and the Senate, and then signed by Governor Wolf at the time. So the big amendments through this change: number one, instead of 2 certificates, we added an extra certificate. So right now, after you've had that first inspection done, you'll hopefully you'll get a clear UNO. Hallelujah. We all hope for that. Or if you have a few minor code violations, you'll get a temporary UNO. You should get a temporary UNO. That means that none of these are life-threatening. The home can be sold, and the buyer has 12 months to make those repairs. The new certificate that we've added is called the temporary access permit, and this was added through the amendment. A temporary access permit kind of addresses that issue that we had with municipalities stopping transactions if there was a substantial violation. The temporary access permit says that, yeah, there are substantial violations. They could be life-threatening, but the home can still be sold. Now, the important thing about the temporary access permit is if you get one of those, you can't move into the home until those code issues, those specific code issues are taken care of. We don't want somebody moving into an unsafe home, obviously, but the property can be sold. Is there a question? I thought I heard a voice. Okay, I'll keep going. Also, again, from 18 months to 12 months, 18 months was kind of a barrier for us because municipalities did not feel it was reasonable. They didn't want a property sitting out there needing repairs for 18 months. And again, so some of them were just completely ignoring this law because of that, which was not a good situation. So we agreed to it being lowered to 12 months, 1 year, which we thought was more reasonable, and they agreed. The last big piece with this law was that escrow is no longer allowed from municipalities. You can have a private escrow if the seller agrees to escrow some money for the buyer for a repair. They can still do that, but it can't be required by the township. So the other big piece of the state law that was added was a definition for substantial violation. I'm not gonna read this to you because you can see this. You can also find it on our website. As Erin said, under that for realtors section, you can go to Act 133 and you can read this definition. What I will say about the definition is, as specific as it seems, it can also be a little gray. And so if you're challenging a local code enforcement officer over this definition, it's probably going to be a pretty high bar to get that, whatever their ruling is, changed through the courts or locally. And so while it's good to have it, it's still not perfect. So we deal with it, and we can, use diplomacy when we have to talk to municipalities about the definition and what we think that it means. So right away, once we passed the law, we had a challenge. We were looking for this. We were looking for a municipality to violate the law so we could, really go after them and enforce the new law. And sure enough, Glen Olden stepped right up to the box with a pretty serious violation. The seller, after having the inspection done of the property, and then he should have had one of those 3 certificates. He was fined 3 times by Glen Olden. They required escrow, another one of those things that was made illegal through the amendment. And they then required that the repairs be made to the property within 30 days. So this was like a trifecta of violations, and it allowed us to go to federal court and take them into court to make our point and to make sure that we had every municipality understanding how serious we were about enforcing this, and also having a precedent at the federal level to enforce the law. So we were represented by local counsel. We did this through assistance of the Pennsylvania Association of Realtors. The lawsuit was filed in the Eastern District of Pennsylvania, the federal court, and we sought relief from Mr. Rahman, who was the plaintiff, against the criminal citations and also compensation for the violation of his rights under this state law. We also sought to have Chapter 61 of Glen Olden's Code of Ordinance declared unconstitutional and brought into compliance with the state law. So the results were, we won. We were very successful. The lawsuit compelled the court or Glen Olden to modify their code provisions to comply with MCOCA. They had to write a new ordinance. It required them to appoint an official to address complaints related to the law after they passed their new ordinance. And they were forced to acknowledge obligation to adhere to the new provisions of MCOCA. They also were required to reimburse all legal costs and fees related to the challenge. So this was a huge win for us. All the criminal complaints were dropped against Mr. Rahman. All the costs associated with the prosecution were reimbursed, and Glen Olden ended up having to pay $3,000 for the work that he did in conjunction with their violation. So huge win for us in that lawsuit, and it's made a big difference for us. Ongoing challenges, and these are some things that you may hear still from municipalities, and this is why we want you to call us when you do hear them. There's difficulty because the seller are buying. This is one of the reasons why we miss opportunities to clearly enforce this. A township, I'll give you a scenario. A township says you've got 30 days to make the repairs versus the 12 months that a buyer will have. And because they want the property and everybody wants to get the transaction done, they will go ahead and say, okay, we'll make those repairs in 30 days, which is not required. And so if you run across this 30-day requirement, we still know that they are out there. Please give us a call. This is very important to us, because if they're allowed to get away with the 30 days versus the 12 months that the state law requires, this is a very bad precedent for everybody. And the way municipalities work is they talk to each other. And once they hear that nobody is complaining about a 30-day requirement, there are going to be more townships and boroughs that try this. And so please give us a call if you find out about this. Also, requiring escrow. It is very rare that we will now hear of a municipality requiring escrow, but we still do hear it. And we will be on the phone with them very quickly to make sure that they understand the state law no longer allows escrow in these situations. Municipalities do try to get away with a lot. Some of them will even say through their language, I'll give you a good example. If you look at Upper Darby's website right now, it basically says that all of the repairs have to be done prior to settlement. And until you've read further down on that page, will it tell you that, hey, you can also apply for a temporary UNO, which gives you 12 months. But they're trying to really emphasize that they want these done before settlement, which is illegal under MCOCA. And so watch out for those. You can settle on the property, but you can't move in until all repairs are complete, right? That's another one that you may hear. Now, it may be true if you've got a temporary access permit. As I described earlier, a temporary access permit means there is actually a life-threatening issue. It could be fire related, it could be electrical related, it could be structural. There's a missing stair, or there's a missing beam somewhere that makes the property unsafe. So there may be reasons why you can't move in. But if you've got minor violations and the municipality is telling you that all of these have to be fixed prior to moving in, and they are minor, that's false. And so again, give us a call and we will help you with that. One of our favorites, and we don't hear this too often anymore, but we do have one that we're working on in Montgomery County at the moment. They will say, well, that's great that we have the state law, but our local laws actually supersede MCOCA and state law. And I will tell you that is always false. The municipality, they gather all of their authority through the state. And if it's not granted by the state, they don't have it. And so just know that if they say, hey, we've got a local law, and so that state law doesn't matter to us, false. Please let us know right away. And again, we will help you talk to them. We'll remind them about the state law. We'll meet with them. We'll bring our solicitor, our lawyer in if we need to do that. That's one of the things that we care most about, is making sure that this law is enforced the correct way. Because it does. It protects your sellers, it protects your buyers, it protects you. For that reason. So that's why we're going into this deep dive today, and we want you to understand how it works. That's a lot of talking. We are about 1 hour in, and we did want to leave some time for any questions that you may have. It could be through the chat, but you can also unmute yourself, raise your hand, and we'll answer those questions for you, or do our best at this point. Any questions? Okay. Just know that we are open 8 to 5 every day. Give us a call, leave a message. I will promise you that if you leave a message, 99% of the time we are going to get back to you that same day. You know, maybe within an hour, because we really want our customer service to be top level. And we know that sometimes you're working on some pretty extreme deadlines. You've got a settlement the next day or the next week. And so we'll get back to you right away. And we will also just give you some consultation. You know, we're not lawyers, but we can consult you, especially on this law and about issues that are related to their code. Erin, do you want to add anything there?
Yeah, Jamie, one thing that I did reference a lot of the things that are available on our website, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention that we also have, you know, social media channels too. So if you are looking to get more information kind of fed to you than just the news briefs, Pete does a fantastic job. He's actually on here today. He does a great job of highlighting the stories that are really most topical to all of you. So for instance, that Upper Darby story, it's not just going in the news briefs. It'll show up a couple of different ways through our various you know, channels, showing people or letting people know that this change is happening, because that information isn't coming really from the municipality. We're amplifying that to realtors because we know that all of you need to be aware when you're going through a point of sale. So thanks.
All right, last call for questions. Anyone? All right, thank you, Jamie and Erin. We really appreciate that. I did put the web URL in the chat for those of you that need it, but you also should know that you can access the Suburban Realtors Alliance directly through that, but you can also access it from our website. It's in I think it's in the lower left-hand corner of tcsr.realtor. It says click here for municipal database, which will then also take you to the SRA website. So however you get there, we do encourage you to use this valuable resource. So I want to thank everyone for being here today. The recording will be available soon, probably no later than Monday. We're going to try to get it up sooner than that if you want to revisit this presentation. And I encourage you to visit our calendar of events, which I'm also going to put into the chat for you. And this is a great opportunity. The calendar of events, I am so sorry, is another opportunity to find both free and credit classes to learn more and do better. So thank you all for being here. Try to stay cool today and have a great summer. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.